going to lead us in a discussion. And I have chosen a topic that I am very interested in. So all of that is to say, this is all about me and for me. So I hope you're going to come along with me to have a discussion around some of the things that I'm really thinking about and trying to grapple with, trying to understand it a little bit better, understand what it means, how do I enact it in my own life, because we're all on a particular journey together. So very, very particular and long topic. So it is techniques for being positive in challenging times. Brian said, I need a topic. I'm like, all right, how about this? So let's see how we do together. So as you know, these talks are highly interactive. We're going to be looking at a lot of Bahá'í guidance and Bahá'í holy writings, and I'm going to ask you to help me because I cannot read all of these slides. So I need your help through this process. So, challenging times. Are we living in challenging times?
Yes.
Why is it challenging? Yes.
It's very simple. If you try to follow the guidance that God gave human race, either through Christianity or Jewish or Islam or Baha'i faith, it's very difficult to follow it through in today's culture.
So the culture is part of the challenge, you feel. What else? What else? Because something, what do you think about that word? Is it challenging? Are we living in challenging times? And why is it challenging? So culture could be one.
I think materialism makes it super challenging.
Materialism.
Because everybody's striving so hard to get more.
Striving to get more.
Which is damaging the earth and all these things, combined.
Okay. What else? Yes.
I think any time is challenging for that time.
Any time is challenging for that time.
Good point.
That's a good point. So it's always challenging. It just happens to be challenging because we're here right now. And we have to live through this time, yes.
Change.
Change is challenging. What is changing right now?
Everything.
Everything feels like it's changing, right? So, all right, so we have some definition of challenging. Okay, be positive. What does it mean to be positive? When you saw that title, what did that mean to you?
To me, that means remaining hopeful despite maybe things that could otherwise make you feel despondent or negative.
Okay, so you said hopeful, feeling despondent, negative. So what is positive? How would you define to someone who doesn't know what positive means? What does that mean, to be positive?
Don't dwell on the unpleasant things in life.
Don't dwell on the
always
unpleasant.
have that in my face.
Yes, do not dwell on the unpleasant things of life.
I would say resilient.
Resilience.
You know negative things are going to happen, but you have a tendency to spring back from the same things.
Okay, so there's the word negative again, came up one more time. So are we saying positive is not being negative or positive is different than negative? Yes.
Get detached.
Get detached. Get detached. Okay. To become positive, what are some of the qualities of positive?
I think it's an outlook.
An outlook.
It's an outlook that doesn't get disturbed by the fact that things do come and things do go. It's a faith in God, in my mind, that we have to try to maintain this. If I trust and I believe, then I can know that everything's flowing the way it's supposed to flow.
Okay.
It has something to do with that.
So there's something, so it has some qualities of people who are positive. They're joyful, they're happy, they're optimistic. There's some of the qualities, right? So if I asked you to be positive right now, what would you do right now? I say, all right, everyone, let's be positive. What would you do?
I smile.
Smile, what else?
Tell a joke.
You tell a joke, humor. What else what are some, there are no wrong answers, just for you. How do you get into positive?
I encourage a friend.
Encourage your friends, sir. Yes.
I think one thing about being positive is being present in the moment rather than thinking about like what do I need to do for the rest of the day or like think about something that I did yesterday. I think that those lead to not being positive because you can either imagine bad things happen and we tend to dwell on things that were not positive in the past. And so like trying to be in the moment I think helps to be positive.
Being in the moment.
And focusing on the good things about that moment.
Focusing on the good things, okay. So we're getting some sense of what positive is beginning to sound like, feel like. Do we know when we're positive? Do you know when you're positive? Do you know when you're negative?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know when you're negative?
Energy.
Your energy, your thoughts, your actions, our words, right? Okay. So let's see let's set an intention. Set an intention for ourselves as we're going through this process to try to understand what positive means, feels like for us. Okay, let's see what that would be. I'm going to start, and then there's going to be lots of lovely quotes, and we're going to have, there's a process that we'll go through together. Abdul Baha says, the reality of man is his thought, not his material body. So our reality is not what we're seeing here. Our reality is here. I cannot see your thoughts, but I can see the actions that you have, the words that you use, your general disposition, your attitude, how you interact with everybody, how you treat yourself, how you present yourself, how you present others. How does thought manifest itself? How do you know someone has a negative thought, or a positive thought, or a spiritual thought, or
I think from his action.
from his actions, from his pursuits, his or her interests, what they focus on, right? Okay. Man is in reality a spiritual being, and only when he lives in the spirit is he truly happy. So, our reality is our thoughts, and when we are living in the spirit, we're truly happy. We read this already, right? Anybody can be happy in the state of comfort, ease, health, success, pleasure, and joy. But if one be happy and contented in the time of trouble, hardship, and prevailing disease, it is the proof of nobility. What is nobility? Now we're introducing another concept. What is nobility? How do you know someone is noble? To you.
I mean, first word that comes to mind for me is transcendence.
Transcendent.
Above, present state where kind of where a lot of other people are.
Above present state where other people are. They're untouched by what is happening. They stay true to their principles, to what they believe. Yes.
Well, everybody is noble because that's what we're told. Noble, I have created thee.
Yes.
And then, reality is sort of, we start focusing on the wrong things that kind of brings us down, and we lose the focus of that.
So we're all created noble. We may forget, not know, get distracted, and then we need to get back to that state. Okay. All right. We are not then called upon to be so successful and so happy that we never suffer, right? Our willingness to suffer is part of our demonstration of love for all mankind. Along with it, however, we must also be able to develop the spiritual muse, not to dwell on our suffering, but to turn our attention away to the great and many sources of our joy. For it is in God that we place our confidence. It is the life processes which the faith has set in motion, which we trust, knowing that it takes time and includes many setbacks. So, is it not to suffer? No, that's not really it. We're not trying to get away from suffering. We're trying to get into a state of what? Spiritual realization, happiness,
Contentment.
joy, contentment. So we're not trying to escape suffering. Of course we're going to suffer because things seem to be challenging. People are suffering, we care. But we don't want to become so despondent and depressed that we can't connect with our own joy. Okay. May your souls be illumined by the light of the words of God. May you become repositories of the mysteries of God. For no comfort is greater, no happiness is sweeter than spiritual comprehension of the divine teachings. If a man understands the real meaning of a poet's verses, such as those of Shakespeare, he is pleased and rejoiced. How much greater his joy and pleasure when he perceives the reality of the Holy Scriptures, becomes informed of the mysteries of the kingdom. Never seen Shakespeare quoted, named in Bahá'í holy writings. There he is. Okay, so poets, they lift our spirit. We love their words. But here, focusing on the holy writings. Okay. A man living with his thoughts in the kingdom knows perpetual joy. Again, here it is. Thoughts and the kingdom now connected for us more directly. The ills all flesh is heir to do not pass him by, but they only touch the surface of his life. The depths are calm and serene, what you were saying, right? It's not that we don't get sick, we don't have sadness, we don't have challenges, there are no difficulties. What does this quote to you? What does it say? What do you read?
That our reality, being the spirit, is untouched by these things. It's just what decays, what comes into formation, the flesh, you know.
Yes.
So here today, gone tomorrow,
Here
but
today,
something else will come of.
And it doesn't touch you to the core. How many times have we been dealing with a challenge or a problem and it rocks us completely to our very core? What is this saying? It shouldn't. This is what we're striving towards. That beneath, we're calm and serene. Calm and serene, nothing will disturb it. On top, there's a lot of change and challenges and difficulties, but underneath, when you go, it's serene.
Kind of like the ocean, right?
Kind of like the ocean.
When a big heavy storm, maybe even a typhoon or something's going on, and just go a little further down and it's all pretty mellow down there.
It's pretty mellow down beneath in the ocean. How many of us feel guilty when someone comes to us with their problems and they expect us to also feel agitated and be rocked by it, rather than to be serene and calm and be able to have their challenges? So it's very interesting. So let's think about the application of some of this. What a beautiful quote. Okay. Oh boy, this one. Be not the slave of your moods, but their master. If you are so angry, so depressed, so sore that your spirit cannot find deliverance and peace, even in prayer, then quickly go and give some pleasure to someone lowly or sorrowful, to a guilty or innocent sufferer. Sacrifice yourself, your talent, your time, your rest to another. So what is that word? What's one word for that? Service, right? Mm-hmm. Serve another one. To one who has to bear a heavier load than you. Be not the slave of your moods. I think I need that on my mirror, because it's so angry, sad, happy, concerned, confused, moody, right? How do we not experience all of these things? Agitated, annoyed. What else? What are some of the other moods? Unhappy, angry. What is it? Anxious. Up, down, left, right, like a washing machine, continuously moving. What is it, Abdu'l-Baha? This is from Pilgrim Notes, so this is not holy writings. This is attributed to him from some Pilgrim Notes. I'm holding on to this because I love this. Do not be a slave to your moods. Be in charge of yourself. Supplication to God at morn and eve is conducive to the joy of hearts. Prayer causes spirituality and fragrance. Thou shouldst necessarily continue therein. Prayer, good, right? Prayer helps. Immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words that you may unravel its secrets, discover all the pearls of wisdom that lie hid in its depths. Read the writings. Pray, read the writings. Serve. Okay, now we're going to start taking apart some of these things. So, this is an interesting quote. I do not remember having read this before, but I'm sure I did at some point, but I don't remember it because it's really resonating with me. Just as the earth attracts everything to the center of gravity, and every object thrown upwards into the space will come down, so also material ideas and worldly thoughts. Remember what did Abdu'l-Baha says? Thought is
A reality.
the reality of who we are. So ideas and worldly thoughts attract man to the center of self. So it comes in. Anger, passion, ignorance, prejudice, greed, envy, covetousness, jealousy, and suspicion prevent man from ascending to the realms of holiness, imprisoning him in the claws of self and the cage of egotism.
Wow.
Okay, we gotta read this one again. Okay, Nidali, would you read this one loudly?
Just as the earth attracts everything to the center of gravity, and every object thrown upwards into space will come down, so also material ideas and worldly thoughts attract men to the center of self. Anger, passion, ignorance, prejudice, greed, envy, covetousness,
Close. Good.
jealousy, and suspicion prevent men from ascending to the realms of holiness, imprisoning him in the claws of self and the cage of egotism.
What does this mean? Can someone explain this to us? What are you getting from this quote?
You know, this reminds me of, there's a short quote from Rumi, something to the fact of, nothing sadder than seeing a man in prison holding the key.
Yes,
Oh,
to the door.
wow.
Yeah, to the
Nothing
door.
sadder
Wow.
than holding the key. Beautiful. Okay, let's start taking this apart. Anger. All right. Anger. Definition of anger is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, and hostility. That's anger. Okay? Oh, what does Abdu'l-Baha say, Sergey?
Anger does burn the liver. Avoid it as you would a lion.
Wow.
Oh, that's Baha'u'llah.
Yes, that's Baha'u'llah. What does he say? Anger burns your liver. I'm sure medicine will catch up with this soon, but it is something, it's very hot. Okay, however, Abdu'l-Baha says, if he exercises his anger and wrath against the bloodthirsty tyrants who are like ferocious beasts, it is very praiseworthy. But if he does not use these qualities in the right way, they are blameworthy. Okay, so anger, for us to experience it, Baha'u'llah says avoid it like you would a lion. Abdu'l-Baha says it needs to be directed towards tyranny and injustice. If it's not, then it is blameworthy. You can't just be angry for the sake of being angry. However, this is a very challenging section. I'm trying to see how I needed to understand it from different sides because I thought there's so much anger right now. All you have to do is open social media, turn on the news, and there's so much anger. Everybody's so angry. And I need to understand how to juxtapose it with directing it towards what I think may be injustice, yet trying not to feel it too intensely. But then also, we're told by Baha'u'llah, in all circumstances, they should conduct themselves with moderation. So for me to stand there and be angry and get on Twitter and get on Facebook and just get all my anger out, does that fall within the bounds of moderation? So we have all these wonderful guidance. And also we're told at the same time, be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age you live in and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements. We can't be like, can't be involved, makes me angry, I can't be in it. We have to be involved in a way that will move the needle in terms of building a society, a community that we're asked to build, that is unified, that is loving, yet not to feel the anger so deeply personally, yet understand how to direct it towards injustice, yet have some moderation in how we're coming across. Do you see how challenging it is already? And then, on top of that, religion is concerned with things of the spirit, politics with things of the world. Religion has to work with the world of thought. Remember, what is the reality of man? Thought, right? While the field of politics lies with the world of external conditions. So do you see how many beautiful ways we are directed to direct our energy that is so challenging in today's time so that it doesn't rob us of our happiness, yet it helps direct it towards action? And also, Abdu'l-Baha says we must find a way of spreading love among humanity. Love is unlimited, boundless, infinite. Material things are limited, circumscribed, and finite. You cannot adequately express infinite love by limited means. Political love is much bound up with hatred of one party for another. This love is very limited and uncertain. There's another reason to be careful about being so overly engaged and angry about politics. Okay, so now let's talk about technique. How are we going to bring all of that together? Let's think for a moment some of the things that we just read, right? So anger, avoid it, Baha'u'llah says, like you would a lion. You don't want to get engaged in it, yet it is appropriate to direct it towards injustice, yet we have to stay very moderate. Moderation is key. Yet we don't want to get involved in politics, yet at the same time, we have to be anxiously concerned with the age that we live in and what it requires. Carol's laughing. And it's like, Carol, what do we do? How do we bring all of this together?
I'm hoping you can tell us.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of reflection. I know, and we'll have a discussion in a minute. So think about all of these different components. So the mark, the writer Scott Fitzgerald says the mark of a first-rate mind is the ability to hold two opposing ideas at the same time in your mind, yet be able to function and move forward. Okay, so this is what we're being asked to do. We're asked to, because our reality is our thoughts. We are asked to become so disciplined and so aligned with the guidance that we are able to become like spiritual ninjas, moving around as needed. So not to be given into our moods, not to be swayed by what is happening externally. It's very easy to be sucked into all of that anger. It's very easy to lose hope, become despondent, become depressed. So how do we do this? Okay, some thoughts.
From experience, is not this is how I do. When I'm really angry, I found out the best thing is to go out for a walk because I have to do something physical.
Okay, do something physical.
And the other thing I learned to do, never ever answer a phone or send an email or text when you're angry, because it will show on your, sometimes I will actually put it in writing what I want to tell them, and when I'm angry, in a piece of paper just to get it out. But I will never answer a phone or send a text or anything when I'm angry. And also, I learned a technique. They say, put a mirror in front of you when you talk on the phone and smile. And another technique said, if you ever been in the store and you just caught an eye with someone in the store, in the street, and smile. Even if you're angry, train yourself to smile.
Train yourself to smile.
So these are the things that help me
to be able to move beyond your anger. So don't respond, don't text, tweet, write, call, talk to anybody when you're angry. Because all we're doing is discharging that energy that Abdul Baha is telling us stay away from, like a lion. We're just releasing the lion. There you go. Now your turn.
Yeah.
Right? And the other is that we need to process it. Also be able to smile, calm down, go for a walk. There's certain techniques. And also, can we have a checklist? We know what the guidance is. How do we stay in moderation? How do we stay engaged? How do we stay out of? Yes.
I'm just telling you a story. My grandson was, for some reason he got angry, and his parents said, calm down, like calm down. So he goes, stands in front of the chair, to himself he'll go, calm down.
Calm down.
Then he was okay.
Okay, then he was okay. Wonderful. Any other thoughts about anger?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I just have one.
Please.
I think I can't remember if it was quoted, but like prayerful, like taking a moment to pray on it.
Yes.
To like ask God for help with the anger or whatever. To say a prayer, and if you don't have the time to, like even just simple remembrance of God, like training yourself to bring your thoughts, just to remember God in that moment. I think can often do a lot to make you realize you're being unreasonable, or you're being, to recognize the anger.
That's right, to recognize it. So, thank you. Ask for guidance from God. Please help me. I'm feeling angry. I don't know how to process this. So we want to get into a state where we're calm, we can think things through, because it's different when you're calm than when you're angry. Unfortunately, part of anger is that you feel justified. You think the anger is caused externally. That person is making me angry, rather than I am feeling angry in this situation. Very different. All right, let's go on. Passion. Passion is defined as strong and barely controllable emotion, a state of outburst of strong emotion like anger or rage or intense sexual love and attraction. All right, so what does the writing say? We must reach a spiritual plane where God comes first and great human passions are unable to turn us away from him, right? All the time we see people who either through the force of hate or the passionate attachment they have to another person sacrifice principle or bar themselves from the path of God. Yes, we've all been there. Yes, all right. Yea, even as the bird which soareth with the full force of its mighty wings and with complete and joyous confidence through the immensity of the heavens until impelled to satisfy its hunger, its passion, it turneth longingly to the water and clay of the earth below. Having been entrapped in the mesh of its desires, findeth itself impotent to resume its flight to the realms where it came, powerless to shake off the burden weighing on its sullied wings. That bird, that poor little bird, right? Hitherto an inmate of the heavens is now forced to seek a dwelling upon the dust. Oy vey, that's hard, right? That's interesting. All right, so what's the technique for passion? So anger is a form of passion. Attachment to somebody else is a form of passion. So what do we do? What are the techniques that you have found to be useful or helpful? Can we even identify it? Are you able to identify it in an age where everything is find your passion, live out a life of passion, whatever you feel passionate about is okay to act out on, to live with? What is that? Yes.
I noticed the word principles was in one of the quotes.
Principles,
I find
yes.
that helpful, like to think about those, because those could be like kind of anchor points. And I think sometimes, emotions are important, but you can't let them override.
Dominate
So
or override.
turning your anger against tyrants.
Yes.
And I think if we can also fall into the trap of thinking our emotions are bad, but I don't think that's really.
Yeah, that is not the point, that they're bad. Thank you for clarifying that. So it's not that emotions are bad. It's that these particular ones that we're told to look at, examine, we're just examining them and exploring them and trying to figure out what the writings say and then what techniques may help us actually be able to work with these better, right? So clearly we need to have passion for love and service and humanity.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's how it's defined here,
So
right?
the principles and the virtues can be like guiding posts. We can ask ourselves, our thoughts and our emotions supporting, serving those ends.
Yes.
Yes or no, and then reevaluate.
Reevaluate it. So I'm hoping that as we're hearing this, that we're beginning to evaluate it for ourselves. Like, how does passion play in my life? Am I attached to certain things that I feel very passionate about that are non-negotiables for me, or are there things that sway me one way or the other? Was it a person that I'm attached to? Is it an idea that I'm attached to? Is it a system of thinking I'm attached to? What is it that I'm attached to? And how do I then move through it? All right, let's look at ignorance. Ignorance is defined as lack of knowledge or information. Just not knowing. Okay. Well, Abdu'l-Baha says, man must free himself from the weeds of ignorance, thorns of superstitions, thistles of imitations, that he may discover reality in the harvest of true knowledge. Otherwise, the discovery of reality is impossible. So if we don't know, how can we discover reality? We can't do it on our own. Contention and divergence of religious belief will always remain, and mankind, like ferocious wolves, will rage and attack each other in hatred and antagonism. What is the root of all of that?
Ignorance.
Ignorance, not knowing. So what is our technique?
Get to know each other.
Get to know it. Get to know each other, get to know the holy writings, get to know what is reality, get to know what is truth. Do you agree?
The Baha'i faith said, investigate the truth.
That's right. And the independent investigation of truth. We're continuously in a learning mode, right? Continuously learning. Okay, prejudice. Dislike, hostility, unjust behavior deriving from unfounded opinions. Interesting. What does Abdu'l-Baha say? God is the shepherd of all, and we are his flock. There are not many races, there's only one race. Search diligently for the truth and make all men your friends. All right, what's the technique here? What would you say, seeing that?
Search the truth and make all men your friends.
So that's right, learn and make friends. What a great religion.
Yeah.
Learn and make friends. This is fabulous. How can we make friends?
Getting out of your comfort
Yes.
zone.
Yes, if prejudice is dislike, hostility, unjust behavior from unfounded opinions, we just don't know, we just don't like them, whoever them is, right? So then how do we make them our friends?
Get to know them.
Get to know them. How do you get to know them?
Spend time.
Spend time with them.
Walk
First-
up to them, introduce yourself.
Well, who is
Have a
them?
conversation.
Right,
Neighbors,
first- right.
anyone.
Okay, so if there is someone that you have a prejudice against, we have a prejudice against, for whatever reason, identify it, seek out someone, and then get to know them. How do we get to know someone?
Knock
What are
on
you?
the door and talk to
Knock
them.
on the door, may scare them, but
What
somehow
else?
reach out to them, right? So first we identify our prejudices. Oh my gosh, I feel uncomfortable when I see X. Oh my goodness, I feel uncomfortable when I see a group of Y walking by. Oh my goodness, I have such a hard time in my business dealings with this group. Oh my goodness, do you see how all of these thoughts? So how do we identify them and then find someone and get to know them? The culture, the group, the people, yes.
Identifying the good in someone and their interests and their qualities, positive qualities, and engaging them on that level.
That's right. That's a very good point. How to engage them. Now, there is something called implicit bias. Does anyone here know what implicit bias is? Okay. You know what the problem with implicit bias is? That's right. It's implicit. You don't know. So it is hidden. It's a bias that comes out when you are actually interacting. And do you know what the cure so far is for implicit bias? Do you know how to change implicit bias? There's only one way.
I don't know if this is it, but to me it occurs as a process of unlearning what you've learned.
Yes.
There's intergenerational conversations and biases that you may not be aware of that you have to wrestle with, I think.
Wrestling with it, that's interesting. However, that's not the way. There's only one way that they have discovered. So there's a test at Harvard University called IAT, if you ever want to take it, and it is timed. So they show you, in this case, black and white faces, for example, and they give you words that are powerfully positive or powerfully negative. And so you see a black face and you see a white face, you see positive words, negative words, and then they juxtapose them around. So you can't choose. You have to react. And it tells you where you are on the implicit bias. It's actually a very courageous thing to do if you ever had a chance. And what they've discovered is that the only cure at this point is you have to actually get to know the person who you have a bias against. It's personal interaction. Getting to know that they are similar to you in some ways, that you connect with them in some ways. You can't read about it, you can't debate about it. None of that will change the bias itself. It's very powerful, right? What did Abdu'l-Baha say? Diligently work for the truth and make men all your friends. Implicit bias be gone, right? Okay, how are you guys doing? This is a lot. We're going to go through a lot. Greed. You know what that is? Intense selfish desire for something, especially wealth and power. All right. All right, Baha'u'llah says, why then exhibit such greed in amassing the treasures of the earth? When your days are numbered, your chance is well nigh lost. Will ye not then, O heedless ones, shake off your slumber? What? Some people are laughing. So what is Baha'u'llah saying? Why so greedy about what?
The material thing.
That's right, amassing, gathering, stuff, a lot of stuff, right? Okay. What's the technique? for countering greed. This is an interesting one. If this is what Baha'u'llah says, why are you spending so much time just gathering stuff? And we are told to diligently work for the truth, search for the truth, and make men all your friends. So if you were to put those two things together, what would you get? What should we be focused on?
Generosity.
Generosity, search after truth,
Contentment.
knowledge, contentment, friendship, what else?
Cleansing ourselves from riches.
Cleansing ourselves from the thought. Remember, our realities are thought. It's what we think about the riches, not the riches themselves. We can be as rich as we want. That's not the problem. That is not even the challenge or the issue. It's the thought of what it means and continuously being engaged in it, right? Because if we can have wealth, we can serve with it, why not? And if something happens and we lose it, then can you be detached enough from it to move on, right? Often wealth is not about amassing, it's about who you become in the process of becoming wealthy. It's your thinking, your discipline. That's important. The stuff, I'm not so sure. Yes.
Baha'u'llah also said that the rich man is not the one who has the most, but the one that needs the least.
So rich man is not the one who has the most, is the one who
Needs the least, yes.
Gosh, so much to think about today.
That's very good.
That's a good one. All right, envy.
Those are mine.
Envy has two definitions. This little word has two definitions. One is a noun, one is a verb. Envy is a feeling of discontented or resentful, longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. And the verb is to desire for yourself something possessed and enjoyed by another. So that's envy. Little envy. No, this is really hard. Look at what Baha'u'llah says about envy. No, verily the heart, wherein the least remnant of envy yet lingers, shall never attain my everlasting dominion, nor inhale the sweet savors of holiness, breathing from my kingdom of sanctity. Oy vey, what is that? Little envy.
It really is just a four-letter word.
It's a four-letter word. Envy is a four-letter word. And look what Baha'u'llah says about it. Even the least remnant lingering. What's the antidote for envy? What's the technique here? How do you not feel envious of someone else's stuff, what they have, their possessions, who they married, what they drive, where they live, how much money they have, right? Yes.
Gratitude, perhaps?
Oh, perfect. Gratitude.
Content.
Contentment. How do you practice gratitude and contentment?
It's your thoughts.
Counting our blessings.
Counting our blessings.
I was about to say that, counting blessings.
Counting your blessings.
Instilling gratitude.
Meditation.
Meditation. Contentment. How does counting your blessings work? You count your blessings. It's that easy. Number one. Thank God Mr. Haydarian is here today. We are so grateful, right? Number two, what a lovely day this is. Number three, I turned on the water faucet, water came out. Oh my God, amazing. I turned on the light switch, guess what? The lights turned on.
I woke up this morning.
I woke up this morning. I woke up this morning. I am so grateful. It's so easy to count your blessings. It is so easy to count your blessings. What if you thought, all is well in my world? What if that was your thought? Remember, our realities are thought. All is well in my world. I have everything that I need. I have everything that I want. What would that do in terms of envy?
Are you talking about yourself or you're talking about the poor homeless outside in the street?
Very good. Mr. Haydarian has a great point. Are we talking about ourselves, or are we talking about people who don't have much, like that poor soul who's suffering as a homeless person on the street? How do you justify gratitude for that person? I have never been homeless. I don't know what that experience is, but I'd love to hear if anyone has a thought about that. Because that is our responsibility, is to serve the community. right? But how does gratitude work for someone who, to our eyes, does not have much? To our eyes, to our experience. That's the other two. What is the standard for that? I don't know. Let's think about that. Let's think that. Education.
Justice.
Education, justice. What is right? Remember, we were told to turn our anger towards injustice. So homelessness is an injustice within our community. How do we solve that? So is there a guilt then to feel a sense of gratitude and be engaged in service? Do we have to always feel despondent and depressed and unhappy and angry to be engaged in service? Or can we be engaged in service, in joy, in gratitude, in aligning with the principles? Yes.
Slightly different, but like what I was thinking about in terms of envy, it's like to challenge our envious thoughts, because to me, like the end game to get rid of envy is to be happy for people for what they have as well. You know, to truly feel grateful that, like, you might have the thing that I, like, at a baser level would be envious of, but to really be happy for you, for your sake, for you having that experience or that thing, as opposed to feeling envy about it myself.
Interesting. So just to make sure everyone heard that, it is how to be truly happy for someone else who has something that you felt envious about. To truly be happy for someone else, to be outside of ourselves. Remember that this whole point of this is we're going through that quotation that says we would be ensnared in the claws and imprisoned in the cage of selfishness, right? Or egotism. Thank you. Wonderful. I don't know if we're going to solve everything today, but we're at least hopefully we're thinking things through. Covetousness. To covet means to yearn, to possess, or have something. Same thing, almost like envy. They're all like cousins here. Put away all covetousness and seek contentment. There's that word again, contentment. Put away longing for something, and for the covetous have ever been deprived, and the contented have ever been loved and praised. This is Baha'u'llah. What an interesting quote. What an interesting quote. So why do you think it says the covetous has always been deprived and the contented has not been loved? Why is that?
I think when you see lack in your world, then you can, then you just kind of see your whole world as lacking, and you make choices based on that feeling of lack, which leads to more. And
Yes.
And if you're kind of contented, and I think too, the thing with gratitude and feeling content, you really have to feel it. You can't just say I'm grateful that there's a roof over my head. You have to really think about what does that feel like, and feel that gratitude, because then if you're looking at things through that eye, rather than just kind of the list in the back of your head, all the things I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Then you can make choices that lead you to be more loved and praised, rather than just kind of going into deprivation. So, since thought is the reality of man, if we're thinking thoughts of lack, we always are wanting more. We're creating, in essence, the reality that we always want more, that there's always lack, because that's our thought and thinking, as you're saying. So how do we then feel a sense of deep gratitude? Possibly, some people need a checklist, others get it through prayer, others get it through however they feel, whatever the technique is. How do we get to a place where we are experiencing gratitude, truly gratitude, feeling grateful? So we know that words have an influence. The words that we use to talk to ourselves, to talk to others. What kind of words are we choosing? All right. You see all around you proofs of inadequacy of material things, how joy, comfort, peace, consolation are not to be found in the transitory things of the world. Is it not then foolishness to refuse to seek these treasures where they may be found? The doors of the spiritual kingdom are open to all, and without is absolute darkness. Again, about materialism, who we are in the world. All right. We talked about that. Jealousy.
Jealousy is a state of feeling jealous. Now, jealousy has synonyms that we are covering. Envy and covetousness. Isn't that interesting? So they're all similar qualities of words. Gosh, there it is. Baha'u'llah, jealousy consumeth the body. Avoid it as you would a lion. What else are we supposed to avoid as a lion?
Anger.
Anger. So anger consumeth the liver. Jealousy consumes the
Body.
The body.
Do you think he's just saying these words? Are these allegorical? Are these, they have spiritual meaning, or do you truly believe that this is what's happening in our body?
They probably are both.
They're both, probably. Okay, very good. Technique for dealing with jealousy is many of the things we talked about. Okay. Interesting. Very good. Suspicion. Cautious distrust. Take heed that your words be purged from idle fancies and worldly desires, your deeds be cleansed from craftiness and suspicion. What's another word for craftiness? Manipulation. How does that work? How does manipulation work? And suspicion. When you're manipulating and you are being suspicious, what's going on?
I would
Yes.
say being covert in your intentions.
Covert in your intentions, not forthcoming, not honest, not forthright. Because of what? You may be afraid. You may be feeling fear. You want a certain outcome. You want to manipulate it to get what you want. You're suspicious of the other person or the situation. There's a lot of fear. But what have we been exploring so far? Be positive, be content. What else? Seek the truth, seek knowledge, seek friendship, right? Okay. What does Abdul Baha say to us? Only the spirit is real. Everything else is a shadow.
Wow.
So let's take a few minutes. This is a lot of stuff. You guys have been great. So these are some of the things, these are some of the quotes that I've been really trying to grapple with personally to see how I can incorporate them into my own life and how I can benefit from them. I'd like to ask you to turn to someone next to you, and if only the spirit is real and everything else is a shadow, and thought is our reality, and we know, and I'll go back to that quote, and we know that we've just been taking apart one quote from all the quote that we saw, right? Because it has certain words that we could actually start focusing on, understanding better, unpacking, and then learning strategies around. Okay, if this is the quote, and did you see what I did here? Light and shadow, did you? This is to follow visually what we're learning today is there's shadow and there's light. So we want to explore that a bit. Okay, I'll read this one more time, and please take about 5 minutes and just discuss some of the strategies that came up for you today and what your thoughts are around this. Just as the earth attracts everything to the center of gravity and every object thrown upward into space will come down, so also material ideas and worldly thoughts attract man to the center of self. Anger, passion, ignorance, prejudice, greed, envy, covetousness, jealousy, and suspicion prevent man from ascending to the realms of holiness, imprisoning him in the claws of self and the cage of egotism. Go ahead, please.